So here we are on February 12th, 2014, and finally the Rolls-Royce comes out of the garage for the first time in a few years, ready for collection, on its way up to the vintage garage in Vermont to have the engine put back in again, and been cleaned off a bit. Got a lot of work's been done. We've done the wiring, we've done the suspension, and we've done all sorts of other bits and pieces on it as well. We've rebuilt the auto vac, we've got the fuel system, got a new fuel tank in it, or a rebuilt fuel tank, and it's going up there to have a few bits of bodywork done and have the engine put in and getting ready for activities in the summer this year. So just taking the fuse box cover off, and we can see there all the brand new wires in there, all colour coded correctly. All the right coloured wires from Rhode Island wiring people, and pretty pleased with where that's gone in. We've wired the flashes in as well onto the same circuit as the main wiring, the routing for the main wiring. That was a bit tight, so I wouldn't do that again. I'd have a separate loom for the indicators coming off around the other side of the bulkhead. But there it is, all back in place, and everything seems to work, fingers crossed. So we rebuilt the auto vac as well, and it had little pepper holes in the bottom of it, which I in the end used a tank sealer to get rid of, or protect at least, just for the sake of one of our dear colleagues suggested that that's how he got his Phantom 2 auto vacs repaired, so that was just the POR 15 tank sealer stuff I used there. One innovation I did put in was a new bowl. This is the bit that goes inside the auto vac where the fuel comes into before it drips down into the outer bowl and into the engine. In contacting the people in the UK, I actually put a much deeper version of this in, which they reckon gives it better range going up hills on long inclines when the current auto vac system hasn't got much vacuum from the engine to keep it going. So that's a good tip. So contact the auto vac guys in the UK, and they can recommend a deeper bowl for the auto vac. And also, as you can see down here behind the back wheel, somewhere down there, there's a gleaming fuel tank. We sent that up to a guy in Canada who reseals and cleans out fuel tanks to get rid of all the gunge in them with this ethanol fuel. Becomes a bit of an issue, so we did that as well. So the fuel system should be pretty good once it's all up and running. So also down the front here you can see a cleaned up and re-lubricated spring sitting there without its gator on at the moment. I changed all the shackle pins as well, front and back, and re-gat them all up, and tested out all the one-shot lubrication system again. So all the springs are now back on the car, and so just waiting for the gators to come over from the UK. There's a couple of weeks waiting list on the gators, so they will be here soon. So we've still got some more work to do on the chassis. The dampers seem to be leaking a little bit, so we've still got that to do, but we can get the engine in first, get the thing running, and see how bad that is. So that's the suspension done, and we spent a lot of time on the interior too, getting all the switches rebuilt, and all the dials refaced, the switch panel all nicely refinished. It was quite expensive, but in the end it's come out superbly, so it was well worth the money. And that was done by Dick Frawley down in Pennsylvania. He did a great job on that. So that looks much better than it did when it first came here, with some really grotty, badly finished painting on the switches and dials. So that's another thing done. And we're gradually piecing back the chrome work on the car. The rear view mirror is in place, the windscreen retainers in place. Still missing an ashtray, still trying to track one of those down, and still missing one or two door handles, which I'm actively seeking out on eBay. But the interior is beautiful. It's got lovely leather. It was obviously quite freshly done, albeit not used much since, and so it's come up quite nicely with a bit of cleaning. So one of the worst jobs to do was the rear shackle pins, the ones that go actually into the chassis rail there. They took some considerable effort to remove them. They're held in with pins. You can't find the pins. You've got to put a lot of heat on them to bash them out. They're sort of locked on tapers, and that was really quite exciting. That took me probably 6 weeks to get them out and repaired, or get them out and replaced and getting back together again. So that was a real haul. So I'm trying to get something in the club magazine about that, because there's nothing in the club that tells you how to do that, and it was I could have definitely done with some assistance on that. As it was, yeah, I got some help and hints from Fines in the UK and from Pierce Reed up in the Vintage Garage, and we muddled through somehow. So what's next? Well, as you can see, the running boards just look like they've been half finished, so they need to be finished off properly, resprayed, and then have the rubber strips put on them again. And also one or two little bits of bodywork need doing to tidy that up a bit. Also, it's missing the dam iron covers. They're supposed to go along the chassis rails here, and generally sort of finish off from where the bodywork around the radiator comes down to the front of the car. And likewise, there's a valence panel that should go across here, which we've got one for, but it just needs modifying and cleaning up a bit. So that's the next step. Once the engine's in and once the radiator's back on it again, and get it ship shape as soon as we can to go to Pennsylvania in July.